What's going on, everybody? We are here. It is Dykema 2026, day one, and kind of day one, right? I mean, so many great people have been here, quite honestly, all week, all in an effort to be able to move the industry forward. And we wanted to continue our conversations with so many of the incredible presenters that have been on stage. And I don't think I have done a conversation yet today around AI, which is kind of crazy to think, right? Because it's the buzzword in dentistry, but very excited to be with Lane and AJ, who just came off stage. AJ is the Chief Dental Officer at Smile Brands. Lane is the CEO of Independence, his dental group in Canada. So gentlemen, it's great to be with you. How you doing?
Real good, man.
Great to be here. Yeah.
All right, so AI. So love to have both of you share a little bit about what you talked about. I know McKinsey was up there from Pearl, and maybe just kind of some thoughts on what you shared.
From a diagnostic AI standpoint, I mean, we're going to look back at this video and go, I can't believe we were talking about that, because we're on the cusp of a complete paradigm shift. I will not practice dentistry the same ever again with diagnostic AI. Why? Because it's actually solving a problem for us. The problem that we've always had, which is, hey, my x-ray is not great. Wait, I'm not a great diagnoser. Wait, I'm not a great treatment presenter. These are all problems that we've tried to solve independently. But with diagnostic AI, it's helping us solve it as a full-scale approach. And that's really why this is never going to go backwards. I don't think anybody's going to say, like, oh, I can't wait to go look at x-rays with my own eyes in the future again. They're going to want this assistance. And our patients deserve that assistance. They deserve the best care possible that we can give them.
Absolutely. Lane, speaking of clinicians that are kind of at the front end of embracing AI, what's your AI journey like? Did you hop in right off the bat? Like, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think like the underlying message I was trying to get at in our talk was that I'm really trying to create a culture of AI use in our organization, right? And the beginning of the journey, it had to start with me, you know, and like, as you know, I'm a DJ, and I always like to kind of give the analogy that when you're the DJ, you know, you're the party commander, right? And everybody will, you know, party as hard as you do. And I think being a CEO is very similar to that, right? You have to prove to others, you know, what your expectations are, and by being able to do it yourself. And so that was really what I did in starting out. Is I made sure that I knew how to use the tools, proved it to my team that this was of value, and then turned over those tools and started educating them so they can continue to use them, and so on and so forth. It permeates beyond me and, you know, grows like a weed.
Yeah. So a lot of times in our community, we're talking about this technology through the lens of the clinicians and the practices. I'd love to talk a little bit about the patients. What are you seeing when a patient comes into the practice and now they are seeing a lot of this new technology implemented? I have to think that they're excited about it. You know, a picture is, you know, 1,000 words, where now they can see the work that needs to be done. Maybe it's making case acceptance a little bit easier for all of you as clinicians, but what are you seeing from the patient side?
Yeah, in the last 18 months, we've seen a complete shift. So prior to 18 months, there was a little bit of a frightening aspect, because a lot of the headlines were, oh my gosh, AI is going to take over the world, it's really bad, and blah, blah, blah. Once they started knowing, wait a second, I use AI every single day. I popped in my phone how to get here. I used AI. I used AI this morning. You know, it's all around us now. In fact, it's probably not an hour of the day that a human being doesn't use some sort of AI. So when you're using it now in front of a patient, they're like, oh, yeah, now, okay, I'm accepting of it. They're trusting it a little bit more. Again, I think it's a relationship-based business. I still think the doctor's communication skills are extremely important. I think the team members' communication skills and the relationship building is extremely important. But there is nobody in their right mind that thinks, wait a second, I'd rather have just human eyes look at this to determine in medicine life or death. And in dentistry, we haven't gotten there in cancer screening, but it will be life and death when we get to there. But in regards to oral health, there's nobody that's like, oh man, I just don't want that extra assistance, you know. We have to tell the patient that it's not fully diagnosing, it's an assistance to the doctor. We're still in control of the situation, but they are very responsive to it.
Yeah. And how about in your practices, what are you seeing from a patient perspective?
You know, I think patients are generally positive towards it. I think the trust levels in AI, and there's a lot of talk about, you know, whether they trust a person or an AI more, and I think the data would show that AI is actually a lot more trusted than doctors, right? And I think that's actually a challenge for a lot of clinicians, right? They're afraid of that, right? They feel like they're giving up that trusted source, and that's made it, you know, adoption a little challenging. But no, I think from the patient perspective, that's easy street. Harder convincing clinicians that this is a positive for them.
Where are we going from here? I mean, I think we all know, like you mentioned, AJ, like this is maybe stage 2, right? Because we had the initial stage, but where do you see this technology moving next in regards to the impact that it can have?
Well, we're definitely not going backwards,
Yeah.
right? We're not going to go backwards into we're never going to be a time where we're saying, oh, remember, let's go back to when we're just using our eyes, or let's go back to when we're not using this type of technology. So we're moving forward. I think from a patient journey standpoint, it's looking at the patient journey and trying to figure out where the problems persist. Okay, great. Where does AI help with that? I think we're in that stage right now. But now there's multiple companies helping in different avenues, which becomes very expensive when you start to hire all those and you start to look at that. So once we start to aggregate that and be able to use maybe one company or two companies to be able to take care of those roadblocks in the patient journey, I think that's the next step that we're moving to. That's going to be very beneficial from an ROI standpoint. And again, it's not the technology. The technology is great. Technology is only helpful for the patients and elevating the standard of care. It's now about, okay, can this technology be really used in a practice from a cost standpoint? And that's important, right? That's important with any technology. It has to be make sense cost wise in order to be able to use that. And I think that's the second. I think that's we're moving into maybe like the third phase of that and trying to see that through.
Lane, how about the data that we're collecting? That's kind of a lot. I think about that a lot as well. Is it like patient after patients after patients and all of that? Where do you see that going? And is that something that you've thought about, or?
Honestly, I don't think we're collecting enough data, and it's a limitation that I found for really effectively using AI. And on our panel we were talking about actually having the voice recordings of what's happening in the room with the clinician, and I think that is a key piece that's really missing to give us not only data that we can use for analysis purposes, but to turn that back around like a mirror to the clinician and say, like, this is what happened, right? Because I think a lot of people, like you said, kind of create their own narrative when it's not in that real-time moment, right? And so that's just one example. I think there's plenty of other data sources that we're not getting in, and it's a real shortcoming for really being able to use AI right now.
And then last question, when I think about your organization at Smile Brands, what has been the adoption for your team? Like the hygienists, the dental assistants, like the office managers, like are you seeing more excitement? Or are they now moving to that next stage where they're seeing the impact of it on the patients and therefore?
Yeah, no doubt that there's more excitement than people that are kind of pushing back. I think there's three really key areas to this. One, it needs to be embedded, meaning it comes up automatically. Two, you need to have great education around this, educating the patients or educating the team members to educate the patients. Every team member has a responsibility in diagnostic and in really any AI. The team has a responsibility. I think when you walk into a dental practice, every single person in there is an expert. They're relying on you to be an expert as a patient. So we need to equip them with the education standpoint and then accountability. For the first time in forever, the four walls of a dental office are down. And we're now exposed to our work. And that has never been the case in dentistry. It's always been like, well, as long as no one sues me, no one will ever see my work. And the reality is that our work is now exposed. And we should be fighting to be the best clinicians possible and to elevate that standard of care.
Yeah, it's interesting. Years ago, I was in a dental practice and sitting in some training, and there was two of the doctors there, and they were showing how they were going to treat a particular case, and each one was a little bit different. And it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, wait, they're not going to like treat the same thing the same. And so it's interesting that you say that, right? When those walls come down now, that's the reality of the independence or the autonomy of clinicians and how they go about it. But how about from your perspective, Lane, when you look at your organization and just the team members there, like where are they at from
I've actually been generally positively surprised at people's reaction. I think a lot of the stuff we've been focused on is around accountability. And, I was concerned that people would react negatively to being held accountable. But what I've actually found is that there is a lot more of a team mentality inside of a practice. And they're grateful to have the information to tell them how that they can improve and be better.
Well, and there's a trust thing there. Like I've always made that analogy with dentistry and getting your car fixed, because as you guys know, like if you don't understand the engine and then the mechanic comes out and makes a recommendation and you're like, should I go that direction? If you don't understand it, you don't know that, right? And as you know, dentistry's been the same thing. So I think that's what's been exciting, right? Is that, like you said, when the team and the patients can see right there in front of their face and then they all adapt it, you move forward.
This is all logical stuff,
Yeah.
as Lane was saying. This isn't like,
Yeah.
pie in the sky stuff. This is all logical. When team members know, they all come to work. Nobody comes to work going, I hope I treat patients inferior today.
Right,
they
right.
all want to treat patients better, and this allows us to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Guys, thanks so much.
Awesome.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Another great
Appreciate it.
conference, and good luck as you guys continue to grow your practices.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thanks, everybody.